Hi guys, it's Clarice. There is a new class over on Skillshare where we learn how to paint these beautiful items individually using some metallic watercolors, and then we get to crafting some gorgeous holiday greeting cards. And here's a snippet of what you can expect. So in this class, you are going to learn how to prioritize your time while taking time for you to sit down and paint. We're also going to be using shimmery metallic watercolors because we are creating holiday Christmas greetings after all, so why not? For the candles, we're going to start with doing our flower, and then actually let's do the candles first because I have some of the burnt sienna already. So just that watered down version that we used for our kettle, we're gonna go ahead and paint the candles in a bit. And again, you can just do it roughly. We want to keep this looking like they are white candles. So while I'm roughly kind of adding this color in, it is so light. When we go in with the details on top, it's going to still show through. Sorry, it won't show through. So the details will stand out quite a bit. And it's just a light glaze of color that we're doing to give it that nice illustrative look. Now the centers of these candles at the top, you can add more color in there so they stand out a bit more in comparison to the rest. I find that works nicely. I'm going to get a little bit more of that and drop that in here. Dropping that in here at the top as well. And I'm just letting that sit that way. We're going to see how that dries up. And then with a clean, damp brush, I'm pulling all the excess color and just kind of painting in the rest. But notice how I've left tons of white space as well. So don't worry too much about that for now. We're just going to allow this to sit and dry up nicely, and we're tackling the rest. So for the center of this one here, we're going to do a very similar color palette to the poinsettia that we're going to be doing. So I'm starting off with my yellow ochre, and I'm just going to dot that in. Like so. I'm leaving a little bit of open white space there. And then without further ado, we're just going to take some, I was contemplating between vermilion and alizarin, but I think I'm going to be adventurous and try to mix both and see what we get. So I'm getting some of my alizarin, and I'm going to do a new technique for you guys. So I'm just going to add some color here. Not exactly a new technique, but I'm showing you a different method to getting your painting or your flower in. Washing my brush, and I've dabbed this on the paper towel, and I'm pulling and extending the color from here. Now, because I waited a little while, some of this might be dried up already, but I don't mind that because then it's going to give me that nice dark to light effect for some of them, not all of them. So we're going to see how that works, and then I'm going to go back in and add more color just to create more depth. So it looks like all of them kind of blended in quite nicely. I'm not getting any hard edges. This is also really good paper, by the way, so can't really complain there. But I'm going to take some of the color directly from here, and I'm dropping that in right in the center. And because I'm dropping it in the center right now, it's kind of blooming into the rest of it, giving me some nice dark to lights. And then I'm also pulling some color out into the petals. And the reason being is it's giving me nice shadowy effects and adding more depth-like features to this because it's still damp. So it's giving me like a nice smooth transition. Now, I'm not fully washed off my brush, but I'm going to take some of this vermilion, let's see where this goes. And I'm going to skirt around here and add and paint the other petals in. I'm not worrying too much about all the details in terms of touching the inner petals because my lay of color was fairly dry. So I know even if it touches, it's not going to be a super intense blend or a mix. I've got a little bit of that happening in the candle. You can see that blooming in there. Again, I don't wholly mind that. But y'all know already, if you've been following along for a while now, the easiest way to get rid of that is take a clean brush and blend it out. Alizarin and vermilion together look phenomenal. It's one of my favorite color combos, which is why I was very tempted to try it here. So before the orange gets too much in there, I'm kind of blending it out. And now we can build up on this, but we can also let it dry a bit before going back in, mixing either the alizarin or the vermilion in with some Van Dyke brown to get a slightly darker tone and just highlight those areas. But let's go ahead and do the leaves first. I'm going to be using my holographic Vivid number 12 color to paint these large leaves. This is going to be the area that is metallic and shimmery. I could have also made this a really nice dark green by just adding some Van Dyke brown in it, and then the flower would have popped a lot more. Just a thought after the fact. Okay, and there's one more at the top. Okay, that's done. So for the berries, I'm going to mix some of the alizarin in with my Van Dyke brown. And I want a darker toned berry. I was thinking about doing the berries in a yellow ochre, but then I thought we've got a flame happening, which is going to be yellow, and we have the center of the flower, which is yellow. So let's not overthink this and go with a nice dark wine red for our berries. So just like we've been painting the other berries, I'm leaving a little bit of white space at the top. And this is what's going to give our painting a nice pop. We've got some of that red seeping into the green there. And then I'm going to get a little bit more, mix that in. Add it right here. And then in this area here. Now this is a little bit tricky because I know the green is a little bit damp still. It's not too bad. And And then I'm washing off my brush, rubbing it onto paper towel, and then I'm just gonna lightly push this color back up. And then I can, once it's dried, I can always go back in with more of the green and kind of solidify that area. But this is just different techniques of how you can go around doing things. And then adding some more of that light background color here. A little bit in between here because there's nothing else, so it's just going to be the stem that's going to be painted in there, so one fine little detail. So that's why I added that in there. And then now we can add a little bit more darker details to our flower. So what I'm going to do for this is I'll just use the one color, and that is using Van Dyke Brown mixed in with some of my alizarin. And it gives us that nice dark red, as you can see from our berries. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of underlining strokes below here, so it looks like a shadow for our flowers. And then just a little bit at the top. And then washing off my brush and making sure it's just damp and doesn't have too much water, I'm just going to lightly blend this color in the background. And that's perfect. So last but not least, actually, I don't know if this is last but not least, I have to look at it again, but I want to go in and just add little tiny strokes in the center of this flower to kind of really deepen that center so the eye goes there. So using that nice alizarin mixed in with some of our Van Dyke Brown, I created that dark tone, and that's what I'm using to drop in the center. Okay, so one last thing we need to do, actually two last things, is the tiny leafy stems. Okay, no, three. I lied. We've got the leaves, we've got the stems, and then we've got the flames. So for the leaves, I really like the idea of using a really dark green, something that's darker than this right here. And so we're going to use Hooker's Green mixed in with Van Dyke Brown. And we've got a nice dark, dark, dark green. And then we can use the same color to add our stems over there. So here we go. Lightly grazing, and then using the tip, we're painting in our leaves. Make sure your brush doesn't fall, because mine almost did. Perfect. I had to hold my breath for that one, guys. Okay, here's my, just dropping in some of this green in here so it just blooms. I meant to do a stem, but the area was damp, so it kind of just went all over. And because it's such a tiny spot, I was okay with that. Lightly grazing to add stems on those guys. And then I'm adding the leaves. Perfect. So now, like I mentioned, we are doing the flame, and for the flame, I'm going to use my yellow ochre. Just doing that. And then I'm going to get, I think this area is dried up. So I'm taking that vivid green again, and I'm going in this area and covering up our faux pas, or my faux pas. And I'm even going to skirt around these berries because that green kind of blended all over. So it can just look like this leaf is right behind it, and it's sitting quite nicely on top of this leaf. Great, so that's it for that. I like how this has turned out. I'm going to add one more little thing, and that is just adding a stroke of that nice blended, what's the color? Burnt sienna, just to kind of give a little bit of a shadowy effect here and kind of really differentiate the two candles that we have. And that's it for our, oh no, one more thing, and then I promise we're done. We need to do the candle wicks. So I'm using Van Dyke Brown and just adding little stems, or little lines rather, for our candle wick, and we are done.